Well, hello everyone. I think it's time to cook again. It's fall now. I haven't been doing too much cooking over the summer, but since it's almost Thanksgiving, I thought we could make some pie. Today I'm going to make a pumpkin pie and a pecan pie. Now, many people buy these at the store, but they're really fairly easy to make. And I'm just going to go through the few steps so we can all have a nice treat. See you in a second.
Okay, we're ready to start. Now, the recipe for pumpkin pie is right on the back of the can. So that's what I use. I just buy the smaller can if I'm only making one pie, but you use the larger can if you're making two pies. Today, I have a very small gathering I'm going to, so I'm only making one pie. And I just use the recipe that's on the back of the pumpkin can. So here we are with our eggs. We're ready to start. And now we have to open up the pumpkin can. Now I have a little bitty opener. Doesn't always work really well. So we'll have to see if I can get it to do some opening for me. And it doesn't work very well. It's kind of having a trauma day today. So we'll stop for a second and see if I can get it to work. Here we go. Finally got it open. So we have the eggs that are already whisked, and we're going to put pumpkin. Now this is not pumpkin pie filling. This is just canned pumpkin. Pumpkin pie filling already has the sugar and the spices and everything. If you like the way it tastes, be my guest and use it. I do a little bit of changing up when I make my pumpkin pie with the spices and such. So I buy plain pumpkin and I use it in my pies. So here we go. I am now whisking together the eggs and the pumpkin. Now we'll start putting other ingredients in. First, a few spices. Always a little bit of salt, even though this is a sweet recipe, to make it taste a little better. And for the spices, the recipe will tell you to use cinnamon, ginger, and cloves. I myself don't like ginger in my pumpkin pie. I only like ginger in Chinese stir fry. So I only use cinnamon and cloves. Since this is a pie you'll maybe be making sometime, you can decide what spices you want. If you have pumpkin pie spice at home and you like pumpkin pie spice the way it tastes, use that. This, even though baking is normally more precise than cooking, for the flavoring of this, you do what you feel is best. And at the end, I will be tasting it just to make sure it's right. Now, here I go. I'm putting in my sugar. It asks for 3/4 of a cup, so I'm using my little 1/4 cup measure 3 times to put 3/4 of a cup of sugar in my pumpkin. Again, after every ingredient is put in, you do another whisk. Make sure they're all incorporated. The next ingredient is the milk. Now, make sure you get the right milk. I didn't this time, have to go back to the store. The correct milk is evaporated milk. Right next to it, you will also see sweetened condensed milk. That's used for coffee creamer, for fudge, and for cookie recipes, but not for pumpkin pie. Please make sure you have evaporated milk when you put it into your pumpkin pie filling. Now, in order to get it fully incorporated, I put it in just a little bit at a time. I don't dump it in all at once. 2 or 3 additions should be sufficient to get it all incorporated. But you have to take your time, because the pumpkin itself is rather dense, and we're putting in a liquid product, so it takes a little bit of time to get it right. But just go ahead and just whisk, and eventually all the milk will be incorporated. There you go. That's the end of my pan. I'm going to take a little bit more time here and make sure it's all put together. And I am going to taste it, even though it has raw eggs in it, just to make sure it's the way I like it. And it is. The next thing is to get the pie crust ready. I'll admit, I do not make pie crust well, so I just get a little help from the store. If you make your own pie crust, good for you. Now, when you're taking it off, be very gentle. Just gently unroll this after you've taken it. I normally put mine in the microwave for a few seconds to get it a little bit warm before I take it out of the wrapper. And then you just slowly, again, just put it into the pie tin. Now, you don't want the single layer of pie crust hanging out over the edge, because it will burn in the oven. So you want to pull it in and crimp it over just a little bit, fold it over so it's just at the edge there. It'll make it easier, and then we're going to crimp it, because the crimping helps it to stay adhered to the edge of the pie plate. This is the crimping method that my mother and my grandmother taught me to use, and so I am doing the same. It'll make the pie look a little pretty, and it stops the pie crust from shrinking down as it bakes. And now we're ready to put in the filling. Looks yummy.
So, that's all there is to making a pumpkin pie. It just went in the oven, and now we'll start on the pecan pie.
Now we're ready to make the pecan pie. The pecan pie filling starts very similarly to the pumpkin pie. Uses eggs. This time we're going to use 3 eggs, and we're going to whisk them together so they're easier to mix in with the rest of our ingredients. Here we go. Again, just using a hand whisk. I don't really think you need to use a mixer for either of these. I mean, if you really want to, you could. Now, the next ingredient is your corn syrup, which is very thick and sticky. So the easiest way to get it out of your measuring cup is to spray it with a little spray oil first. Then measure in the amount of corn syrup you're going to be using, and it will come out into your bowl a lot easier. I also use this little trick if I'm measuring honey or molasses, anything that's kind of sticky inside your measuring cup. It will come out a lot easier if you do a little bit of spray before you get it in there. Okay, there we go. Ready to start the next step. Mixing in the corn syrup with the egg. Now, corn syrup is basically liquid sugar. So, this is a very, very sweet pie. But we only have it once or twice a year, so why not? Next ingredient is more sugar. This time, plain old granulated sugar. 2 tablespoons of melted butter, a little bit cooled down, because you are putting it into raw eggs. The eggs are probably not going to do anything, but make sure it's not fresh out of the microwave when you're putting it in the recipe. And a little bit of vanilla again for a little bit of sweetness and to round out all the flavors. So this is the basis of our liquid ingredients. And now we're going to be ready to put in the pecans. If you're making this for a very special occasion or you want to look really fancy, you can certainly buy whole pecans. They do look lovely in this recipe. Now, I'm just making this for some friends, so I used shelled pecans, this pecans bits. They taste exactly the same. They're actually a little easier to eat because they're smaller pieces. But if you really like the whole pecans, have at it. But I do use a little extra because there's never enough pecans in a pecan pie for my taste. I prepared my pie crust the same way. So now I'm just going to be putting this in to the prepared crust and bake it as per the recipe. Oh, doesn't that look delicious? And there's my 2 pies all ready to go to my celebration.
And there you have it. 2 traditional classic pies, really not too hard. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe you'll try the pies. I'll see you again real soon.